Oh my God. Hey, Kristen. Oh, I can't hear you.
I'm trying to figure out why my ear pods aren't working with my computer. So I was sitting here playing with it a little bit.
Oh.
Because
You
it would
need
be
to figure
easier
that
just to block everything else out.
Yeah, that is so helpful. I understand. I haven't used them myself, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
yeah, I'm letting people in one at a time.
Okay, we don't need a replay.
No, we got that gentleman, David Green, who was at the meeting last night. He called to commend the select board and all of us for keeping our cool, keeping our pose.
Oh, that's very nice.
Thank you for the way you handled it, he said. Yeah, it was very nice. He was
That was
upbeat.
very nice.
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking.
To say the least. I'm going to try this one more time.
Hi, Susie.
Hi there.
Last night on the select board meeting, we got Zoom bombed. It was really awful. So I'm letting people in very carefully.
That hasn't happened for a while, has it?
I think it happened, Kristen was in the police study committee.
What's that?
Did we get Zoom bombed at the police study committee?
No, that wasn't, we didn't get bombed there. No.
I know.
It had to have been another meeting of yours, maybe a finance committee or something, maybe.
I think Mary Ann might have gotten Zoom bombed.
Oh, yeah. It was something.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
People without enough to do.
Mhm.
How about sweeping streets? Something.
Okay, we got that. Okay. Just, there was something.
I'm going to put this on mute because I'm munching.
Okay.
Hi, Rita.
Hi.
Rita, I was just telling Kristen that Dave Green, who was at last night's meeting, he left a message commending the select board and myself, but for keeping our poise, and thanked us for the way we handled ourselves.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah.
I'm
Who
trying
was
to
that?
change my volume here. Hold on. Oops. There we go.
I figured it out, Becky. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fantastic. I got the ears working.
Oh, so Melissa said she's having trouble logging in.
Hmm.
Computer's sluggish, but she should be here any minute. Hi, Mike.
I found the button.
It took me a second to get you in too. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I don't see Cheryl, Melody, or Mary Jo.
Maybe the lake is down.
Some people, I think, were having trouble with their internet.
Um, Rita, do you want me to make you the co-host for now? I'm gonna make Melissa a co-host too. If anything goes wrong, it's better to have more.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Then you can find that remove button really fast.
Okay. Where is the remove button?
You have to, if you put your cursor on a picture, there's
Yep.
buttons, 3 buttons to the right.
Okay.
And there's a list of options, and second to the bottom is remove.
Okay,
That's the fastest way, or else you go to the participants list.
and then you can remove somebody.
I'm double checking to make sure that's true. Yes, you can do it there too, either
Okay.
one. But when I
Okay.
started bouncing around, it was easier to do it from the pictures because I didn't know who I was looking for.
Okay.
And
We
Melissa,
got Zoom bombed at the select board meeting last night. It was very nasty. So we actually had to just shut down because the way it was working was that they were using our names. So they were able to then have our names up and continue their, it was bizarre. So we just shut all the way down and restarted the meeting.
Is there a process to identify? Can they trace it back to who it is?
I don't know, can they?
hopefully we'll find out. During the process, there was an option to report the incident to Zoom, which I reported it. But I haven't had any feedback from them yet.
in my research about it last night, it said that it just turns into, rabbit hole after rabbit hole trying to locate them.
Mhm.
Hello, can people hear me?
Yep,
Oh, good. I'm having some computer issues.
yeah.
And a pen issue now. Hang on. 1 second.
Hello, this is Cheryl. I'm also having computer issues.
Oh, but it's not a good club to be joined to, but join the club.
We can hear you very well.
Yep.
Cheryl, I'm gonna rename you, your phone number.
Sorry, you're going to,
I'm putting your name on your phone number.
okay. Doesn't matter. I can't see anything. My computer will not let me go into the Zoom meeting.
Oh, so you can't see anybody else?
Nope, can't see anybody.
Were you able to do it a couple weeks ago?
I was able to do it for our first meeting.
And then
Don't know.
when you were out with COVID scare? No?
Oh,
Something's
yes.
done.
Yes, I was able to do it then with no problem.
Yeah. That's,
Mm,
okay, so we're just missing Melody and Mary Jo. So if you wanna
We can start.
Can
start,
okay.
Melissa, I will try to locate them.
Okay, thank you. So let's call the meeting to order. I'm going to I'm gonna change my screen slightly here so I can see the agenda as well as, so I can't see you guys now, but that's okay. I know you can see me and I know you're on my screen. So was there any adjustments to it? And I don't believe so. So why don't we? Come on, computer. Okay, here we go. There we go. I guess I need the more complicated setup to be able to do this. Let's see. So call to order, review the agenda. I don't believe there was anything to add. Becky, you and I spoke earlier. We weren't going to add anything. Unless someone has something they'd like to add in. Does anyone have anything they'd like to?
Yes, I've got a couple of questions maybe. So our agenda tonight has some things on it, but at the end of the last meeting, there was there's a list of items that were going to be on the next agenda, which would be tonight. One of them was data on patrol and mutual aid, and then also some information on the Whately Sunderland Deerfield consultant study that was conducted. And those things aren't showing up on the agenda tonight. So I'm just wondering what where are we at? How come they're not on there, and kind of what's going on with that?
I don't, well, I don't know that we had, Kristen, we hadn't pulled together the patrol mutual aid data yet, right?
No, and
We had
it
done that,
was,
so that's why it wasn't on for this.
it
one.
was my understanding that we weren't going to bring it for this meeting. I saw Becky's hand raised. She may
Okay, go
have
ahead,
some.
go ahead. I'm bringing up the agenda on my
I
others.
know that Kristen and Cheryl tried to meet over the last 2 weeks and they were unable to do so. So they didn't have new information. That's why it wasn't added. And
That's something different.
Yeah.
This was pulling specific data
oh, I'm sorry.
for just the mutual aid instances.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
so that
well,
was kind of a
And
new
then I
data point.
said, I also emailed Melissa to say that I wouldn't be able to get the information about Sunderland, Whately, and South Deerfield in time for this meeting. So really on the minutes, it shouldn't say that it's going to be at the items for the next meeting. It just should say
Future.
upcoming, because sometimes it takes more time for people to get the information.
Well, my question is then, so how do we keep from losing track of those things? You know, we discussed it at one meeting, and then it's, you know, with the expectation that it's going to be on the agenda on the next meeting, and then it's not. And so, you know, I can see where it easily, you know, disappears. So what's the process for making sure that we come back and pick those up?
Well, I
So we'll-
still have it as a task that I'm working on. I know that, and I will bring it to the group when I get that task done.
And I'm going to say the same. I know that that's one of my tasks, but I didn't believe that I was supposed to report it for this particular meeting.
Okay, all right, then I was confused then, you know, looking at the minutes and everything as to what this meeting was going to look like and everything. And then another kind of something that I need to bring up is what happened to our meeting last week that it got canceled. It kind of
It
put me in a
wasn't,
little bit of a bind, and I'm not so sure that or I'm hoping there's a way that we can avoid that. So I'm wondering what happened last week.
it wasn't posted in time. So we couldn't have the,
Okay, and so why, what, was there something was going on that it couldn't get posted on time, or what was happening?
yes, I didn't remind Becky, and Becky and I didn't coincide with the agenda in time to get it posted. So we can't we can't have a meeting unless it's posted 48 hours before the meeting, and that was not able to be done. So that's why it was canceled.
Okay, then the other thing is, you know, that kind of put me in a bind as far as that was concerned. I mean, I made special arrangements to be at that meeting Thursday and cut my plans short, and was a little concerned that, you know, basically at noontime on Thursday, the meeting was canceled. And I guess, again, the bottom line for me is, so how do we keep from having an issue like that again? My suggestion is that we develop an agenda for our next meeting before we close out a meeting, and post it that very night. So we know exactly what is going to be on the agenda, and we know that it's going to be a meeting that we're going to have.
We can try that, but we do also have to remember, we have to remain slightly flexible in case there is an emergency that happens and a quorum is not able to be assembled.
No, I understand that, and I, you know, I understand the other meeting that we had to cancel was you know, Kristen had things that she had to do, and I understand the reason for doing that, and that was perfectly fine. But when it's just a meeting doesn't get posted because we forget, that's unacceptable to me, and it makes things difficult for me, and I'm hoping that we can avoid doing that in the future. So you know, I would like to see us being able to have something established before we leave this meeting tonight for our next meeting. At the same time, looking at our next couple of months, we're basically supposed to be meeting on the second and fourth Thursday of every month. We're running into holiday months and things like that. So I'd like to, maybe not tonight, but next meeting, at least look at the next couple of months and make sure what our meeting dates are going to be, so that you know, we can all plan around the holidays and things like that. That's all I've got. Thanks.
Okay. Did anybody else have any thoughts on the agenda or anything like that? Why is this not working? No? Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to make public comment?
I would.
Okay,
Hi,
Rachel?
hi, my name's Rachel Schwabri Horka. I'm a town resident, And I have been looking for the minutes of the last meeting, and I don't see them on the website. So I want to know, where may I find the minutes, and or is there a way to see a copy of the Zoom recording? Because I missed the last meeting.
Yes, so you
Um,
could, yes, the Zoom recording, you can ask the town clerk for, and she can give you access. Minutes are not posted until they are approved at our next meeting. So last meeting will be done tonight. Go ahead, Becky, you had your hand raised there.
I think the town clerk is a little bit behind in getting all the most recent minutes posted. She had put out a notice to people to catch up on everything that was missing from the prior year, and had a flood of incoming minutes, and she's trying to catch up on the backlog.
Thank you.
So hopefully everything will be caught up by the end of the week.
Thank you, Becky. But that's how you would get the access to the Zoom, is through the town clerk request. And minutes will be approved from last meeting at this meeting, and then they would be posted after this meeting.
Okay, well, I also would like to say that I've been a town resident for over 20 years. And our family, our extended family has been here for generations. But I want to say that I really support the police department. My husband and I both do. And anyway, I would like to, I'm looking forward to seeing what this committee is coming up with. I think we're an isolated town, and that I know that there are things that go on in this town that I think need a police chief. So anyway, I just wanted to express our support. Anyway, thank you again for the information.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for your comments. Does anybody else want to make a public comment, or shall we get started? The first thing on the agenda now, it would be review the minutes from our last meeting. So did everyone have a chance to look at those?
Yes, I did.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I have no edits. They were fine for me.
Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from September? I believe it's September 9th.
So moved.
Second.
I see a hand, Melody.
Yeah, I'm sorry, minor
Anita-
point of order. Hi, yeah, just a minor point of order. My name is continuously misspelled. It's Melodie. It's Melody. So I would like the minutes to be correct. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
fixed them in this one. I didn't see it. I made it corrected in this one, and I don't know where you see it, but it's not correct.
Where it says members present.
Number
Okay.
7.
Members present.
In the 9 minutes, under members present, spelled Melody with a Y.
Yeah, it's spelled correctly there.
Sorry, I keep hitting mute. I'm looking at the draft.
You
minutes.
can leave it unmuted. You don't have to keep muted. You can leave it
I'm
unmuted.
looking at the draft 8:26 minutes. Am I looking at the wrong thing that had?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies. Thank you.
You had also given us that edit when we approved those minutes.
Okay, I thought this was a new one. My apologies.
No, you're fine. I think you're fine. I just glanced over them. I think you're okay, Melody, with this one.
All right, thank you so much for indulging me.
You're welcome. Do I hear a second to that motion to approve minutes from September 9th, 2021?
Second.
Anyone, Melody has given us her comments. Does anyone else have any edits? Michael?
That first paragraph, let's see, it mentions that that I have to leave for another meeting and everything. And then the line that it says he'll report on the history of Shutesbury's consideration of merging police departments with Leverett at the next meeting. And then there should be a period there, and delete, as well as, and just put in Mike volunteered to look into the Wendell Leverett agreement. It makes the way they're sentence is written right now, it looks like I was going to have some sort of report at our meeting tonight on the Wendell Leverett agreement.
Okay, as well as volunteer to, okay. I'm okay with that. Anybody else okay with that?
Fine.
Yes, fine, okay. Was there any other edits? No? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes, and I'll go through I'll just do a roll call vote, sometimes easier. Rita,
Carol, I.
Mary Jo,
Mary Jo, I.
Melody Chartier,
Chartier, I.
thank you. Michael Vinsky,
Binsky, aye.
Sergeant Burgess,
Burgess, I.
Susie Mosier,
Mosier, aye.
Carolyn Hayden, Cheryl Hayden,
Hayden, I.
and I think that's everyone. Oh, Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Can we identify this phone number person
Yep.
for my minutes that I'm taking tonight?
Sure. Can the person with the 508 area code please identify themselves? You may unmute yourself. Hello, the person with the calling of the 508 area code, can you identify yourself? Please?
Somebody is lurking.
I guess, I think it might be fair if they don't respond, that we could tell them that we need to remove them because of our experience being.
Experience last night.
Zoom.
Yeah. I'm going to ask the person again with the 508 area code to identify themselves by name. And if you don't, I will remove you from our meeting. Okay. I'm removing them. All right. We have to be careful. We had a pretty disruptive meeting last night with hackers and such coming into the meeting. So it was inappropriate language and comments. So we had to end the meeting and restart. So we're being overly cautious to unidentified people popping in, or multiples of the people who are attending. All right. So let me go to.
I just want to, before
Yep.
we move on, I just want to say, as usual, Susie, you did a terrific job with the minutes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. So we are now on the minutes we've done. Now we are on the review history of past efforts to share police chief or combine police departments. So Mike, I think this is the item that you were taking up.
Right. So I just want to be clear on what I was covering here, and this is charge number 4, and it's what have we learned from previous attempts to explore working with other towns using a shared police chief model. So the item on the agenda is a little bit more broad than what I was tasked to look at. So I just want to make it clear that I'm doing what the charge said and everything. So it's basically there's been 2 attempts to look at whether it makes sense to use a shared police chief with a couple of different towns around us and everything. I'm not gonna go through this line by line or word by word or anything like that. I'm assuming everyone's had a chance to take a look at it. It is a draft as far as I'm concerned. If there's some things that anybody thinks could be presented better or more information that ought to be in here that I could potentially research, feel free to let me know, and I will work on doing that. But kind of the bottom line is both attempts to explore this have been a little bit hit or miss, and there wasn't any real objective means of evaluating whether it was more beneficial to use a shared chief or not. It seems the the earlier exploration in 2004, 2005 was a little bit more, had a little bit more structure to the review. The later one in 2016 and 2017 was a lot of things that just were talked about, but then were never followed through with. One thing I would like to take a look at a little bit more is in the beginning of the notes, there's number 3. There's a citizen petition. A citizen police department review committee was formed, and I think it may be important to find out what the composition of that committee was, and see who those people were. I think it's a different composition than this group that we're looking at right now. I think there's in our group there's quite a few town hall, I'll call them town hall regulars or town hall people, and that may be presenting a point of view that is specific for one aspect of this. I think that 2004, the review committee may have been more of a citizens resident type committee that may have had a different point of view. So I'd just like to check and make sure what the composition of that was, and include that in the report. There's a couple of kind of administrative things in here that I'd like to fix up a little bit more. On number 7, I'm quoting from the report that was conducted by the Novak Consultant Group, and the way the paragraph is written, it seems like the conclusion that I came up with was part of the report, and that isn't correct. So I'm going to change that after the quote to make that a different paragraph. And also number 11, it's referencing the Massachusetts Office of Public Collaboration, which was a request by the town administrators of Shutesbury and Sunderland to potentially do some consulting work, and not sure where that went. It's basically the research I can do is that it's found that the request was made for some consultant work, but then if there was any follow-up or anything, it's not clear. And then the last thing, the expiration in 2016, 2017 ended with the select board saying that they're going to cease discussions regarding the shared police arrangement with Leverett. And Melissa was on the select board at that time, and she was going to draft a letter, and it would explain why Shutesbury was terminating the expiration. And I haven't been able to get a copy of that, so I'm not quite sure what happened as far as that.
Mike, I can answer that question for you.
Okay.
Today I sent around, attached to a little bit of information. I said we're going to be solely virtual. Kristen helped us solve that problem, actually, or that question. Leverett decided to go to the paper and nullify going forward with any of the shared chief conversation in a pretty dramatic way in that second article on the 11th of at the 2nd of November. If you read it, they were pretty nasty. So we didn't send a letter after reading that in the newspaper.
Okay, all right, yeah, I got your clippings
Yep.
there, and I read them, and,
Yep.
and it was pretty intense and everything.
Yeah, so that's, we decided not to send a letter after that point, because they were the ones that had made that, the public statement, and, you know, whatever we were gonna put in for reasons why we weren't going to go forward really didn't matter at that point.
Okay, all right, great, then I will, I'll write up a little something
Yep,
that explains that, that's,
And maybe reference the article too, because maybe that's a good point to have in our information.
sounds good. But that, so that's basically, you know, what I came up with, and if, you know, if anybody's got any comments or anything like that, we're here to talk about it.
Is-
I
go
have a
ahead.
question.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
That is, I know that recently Leverett and Wendell have agreed on combining their police forces, and I wonder, is it a matter of just different people making decisions at this point? I mean, that was 4 years ago that they wrote that letter. So, and personnel at towns change, and that I'm just curious if that's the reason why that one worked and ours didn't.
Go ahead, Kristen. You can leave your things unmuted unless you have background noise.
I'm sure this is going to come out when Mike brings forward the agreement. It's not that they combined forces, actually. Wendell didn't combine forces with Leverett. Leverett has taken over for doing anything in that town. There is no police department or any part of the Wendell Police Department that is part of the Leverett Department at this point. So I just wanted to say that.
So it's an entirely different situation.
It is an entirely different situation. And also when we talk about these things, I think we just always have to keep in the back of our minds that when you are looking into something like that, you have to like the leader, you have to respect the leader, you have to want that leader, and leadership can change, as we all know.
Yes, indeed.
Go ahead, Susie. And there's also a point of information that I'd like to just give the committee at some point. But anyway, go ahead, a little bit of an update, but go ahead.
So is that a fee for service? When the South County report was made, they talked about different models. There was regionalization, there was fee for service, and then there was some sort of collaborative agreement that was less specific or less clear. So are they doing a fee for service? Leverett provides and Wendell pays for services as it's needed? Yeah.
Yes.
So, and that, you know, Cheryl, your question, I think, is going to go into a different category as we move into the future of this. You know, what I was working on right here was like taking a look back at only one aspect of whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call it shared resources or anything like that, but just the one aspect is sharing a police chief between two or more towns. But I think as you know, as we move forward, and like I said, I am volunteering to look into the Wendell Leverett model. You know, the relationship between the towns, I'm sure, is going to come into play, and hopefully maybe with the different leadership in both towns than what was there 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe it'll be a little bit more open discussion and less animosity and everything. So I think as we move forward, we'll be talking about this more later.
Susie?
Okay, thank you.
So I found the South County report pretty thorough. And they talked about different models a town might consider. And then on page 20 in that report, they had a lot of sort of meta looking at things in a bigger picture. One of the things they said is there were many studies done and there were very few consolidations, and the failure rate with the voters was around 85%. So looking broadly at how these proposals go, they said voters generally were not looking to consolidate at a rate of 85%. They also said in that part, this is on page 20 of their report, that when it's viewed as a manner of cost savings, that's pretty doomed because the savings are often overestimated. The primary goal of merging departments that they see as workable is the delivery of services would be improved. And the secondary goals would be to reduce duplication, to create greater professionalism, to increase opportunities of advancement for employees, and last, to save money. So I found their report to be persuasive, that it takes, they said it takes a lot of both the town administrators, the townspeople, and the departments to be ready and willing to do this. And because those are three very big stakeholders, the failure rate is like 85%.
Well,
So,
go ahead, Mike.
yeah, Sue, so I'm not sure why you're bringing that up at this time. I mean, the topic right now is the history of exploration of a shared chief. And I'm not sure why you're bringing that up.
Because those comments that came when from the group in 2004, it really reflected some of those very issues. We see it manifest. And when we look at the article in the Montague Reporter and the kinds of things that people were upset by, that's manifest. We see that if you don't have the administration totally on board, then it's very easy for them to have reasons to pull out, to not want to do it. And we have talked about having a survey to help understand what the people in town are looking for. And they had, the survey had some very basic questions. Does it need or want its own department, or is it willing to rely solely on an outside entity? So they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different steps the townspeople and the government and the police department need to think through before they go down that road. And I feel like they really reflected things that we see in the efforts this town has made before, both in 2004 and then again in 2017. So I see that reflected there.
So are you saying then that we should just forget this whole thing and I mean, if it's an 85% failure rate of doing anything other than a traditional police department, is that what you're saying? Is that we're wasting our time?
I'm saying I looked through your notes and I didn't see you reflecting any of those concerns. I feel like your basic idea is that it would be cost savings, and you wondered why people didn't pursue it for that reason. And I feel the South County survey makes it pretty clear why that happens, and it makes it pretty clear why the group in 2004 balked at it, and that I'm not saying it's worth nothing. I'm saying looking at the information we have, we can start to shape both our survey, what kinds of things we need to hear from people before we would even consider moving forward. And then I do feel it might be a I'm not sure that Shutesbury is ready for it, but I was thinking, okay, so you have two towns, they both have to have all these pieces in order. They both have to be saying they want to rely on other people, blah, blah, blah. And that seems like a far shot, that it'd be hard to come up with that.
Well,
Can I
let
ask
me,
May I ask a
no,
question? May I
no,
ask
excuse me, no, I've got, I need to talk, I need to, just follow up on this real quick. I'm sorry, but just take a second. Susie, that's a lot clearer now. I understand where you're going at and stuff like that. And I just want to say, I attempted in this stuff that I wrote up to just present what, what was there. So when you say I'm pretty much, I left out the idea that it's a difficult process to to move forward like a shared chief thing and everything, which I agree with. That's, the survey, the study that you referenced, it's very clear in there. But I was just trying to look at what people were looking at back in 2004 and 2016. And those things that you mentioned didn't appear to me to be reflected in what the people at the time were considering.
Really?
So I understand, what you're saying now and everything like that. And this document that I generated, it's just trying to present the history of what happened and kind of based on the people that were involved at the time. So that's, I'm trying to keep it as objective as I can. And that was my goal.
Mhm.
Sorry, Rachel.
Hold on, before we go to public, let's first have committee members comment and then we can go out to the public. Does anybody else have some? With that, I do also, I just want to add one snippet, was that I remember going through the 2004 one, that was the Brownville, Maine thing that we had looked at, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. And I remember that the people that attending the meeting, the public attending the meeting, were not really into sharing a chief with anybody. I remember that was the vibe in the room from the people participating and commenting, from residents commenting.
But Melissa, I'm not familiar with that. Was that
At the meetings, when they were holding meetings during that time, when Becky, remind me if, and maybe you don't remember. I specifically remember sitting in the room and there being public making comments, and the public just wasn't on board with sharing with Leverett. Or I can't remember if that was Leverett we were looking at the time.
Yeah. No, there
And
was,
the public was not interested in exploring it.
and there's no documentation. That is probably just an
oh,
open
there's
general.
minutes of all their meetings.
Yeah, it was
Which-
just, it was the feeling in the room. I was sitting in the room listening to it, and the feeling in the room was that, because I specifically remember that was one of the first public meetings I ever went to, because I wasn't a person who wanted to share police with anyone at that time,
So that was part of the police department review committee. They had a town-wide meeting or something like
They
that.
did, and the chief from Brownville came down and gave us information, yeah, and it just was not resonating with the public at that point.
Well, I'm sorry, I haven't seen any references to Maine or anything like that. So
It was the
Alright.
Brownville, Maine, right, Becky? I'm not making
I
that one up.
believe so. And I'm looking through, I'm looking through the minutes and of those meetings. And to an earlier question Mike had, there's a list of the members of the committees that are on those meetings. And I can let you know what their positions were, if you want me to send you a list like that. But this process went on for almost a year. It was like 9 months. There was a huge investment into this process. The report was written up at the end. And I did want to respond to the paragraph in here, Mike, on the first page in the summary, when you say, that the Shutesbury administrator has stated that it would be necessary to give a current police chief 1-year notice if sharing a chief were to be implemented. That's based in statute that came into law around just a couple years before 2004, about 2000, and I can send you a copy of that statute.
If
And
you,
that's
if you have it, yeah, if you have it handy, I'll correct that then and just, and throw that in, because I think that's important to know what the requirement is going to be if it comes down to doing something like that. So,
Yeah, and that's why the position was adopted that since you had to give a chief a year's notice, that you would have to plan for any kind of sharing of a chief. And that's why when an outgoing chief, like when Charlie Bray left, he was suggesting that we should consider sharing a chief between Leverett and Shutesbury. He was the first one to bring it forward, and it's discussed a lot in the minutes. But his reason for doing that is the timing of being able to plan ahead so that you can't just fire a chief. You can't just give them 6 months notice. They have to have a full year's notice. So there's a lot of protections for police chiefs in Massachusetts. And so that's why that concept, what became sort of a cornerstone that we built from, that you really looked at the department and the structure when you were transitioning, and other departments have done the same. That's why Sunderland reached out and Shutesbury reached out. Leverett was less concerned back in 2016 because they did not yet believe their police chief was leaving, but the other 2 police chiefs knew he was. So there is important timing issues involved in sharing a chief or transitioning to one chief.
Becky, I too, also just to add to that, I think each time we've thought about this is when one town or another were losing or had lost their chief.
And
We
that's
haven't looked at it in another way like that. We haven't looked at it in a way where you have 2 chiefs and you're trying to figure out a solution, right? So it's always been when someone is leaving, so you're scrambling to figure this out.
yeah, Becky, if you could send me, if you've got the Mass General Law reference, that would be great. And did you say you had I have the names of the people that were on that 2004 review committee, but I don't know if they were, if they were on a different committee, or if they're just straight residents, or what other roles they played.
for you. Yeah, because we have the town
those-
administrator, select board members,
Personnel.
personnel board, assistant town clerk, another personnel board member.
Finance.
Jim DeLeva was a past selectman, but he was also a lieutenant in the Amherst Police Department, a resident of Shutesbury. And when we really got to the point where we had to really strive to clean house from a very serious police presence that wasn't operating within the norms, the lieutenant stepped up and came to the select board and helped us in really researching how to move forward. And he was the one who helped us bring in Charlie Bray. And so Jim DeLeva was a selectman, but a policeman as well. So
Oh, good. I'd like to add all that. So if you could send that to me, that'd be great.
I will detail that for you. And I was also wondering, do you have the minutes of their meetings?
Yes, I have all those minutes. You sent those to me a long
Yeah.
time ago and
I
everything.
thought
That's
it-
basically what I was working off of. So,
And there was also included in their final report, they did do, analysis and there were a lot of comparisons with other towns financially, what things, departments cost, what chiefs were paid, what officers were paid. So there was an attempt to do some financial analysis. It wasn't totally bereft. It wasn't all subjective information. There was.
right. Yeah, no, that's why I said in the 2004, 2005 was more objective than the later on explorations.
And I think, I don't know if it's really, the later explorations really never had a chance to develop out we didn't have an opportunity. We didn't end up pursuing the full studies that I think would have been even more objective than the earlier report had we been able to. But with the politics falling apart between the two towns, that never happened.
Right.
It really never got beyond the conversation stage.
But we did the planning to have the support to do a full, a fully objective. The plan was to bring in a third party. One of their people would come in and monitor the discussions with the public, because as Melissa recalls, there was high tension in those meetings. A lot of people did not want to even talk about not having their own police chief. It was heated discussions. And then when we went to Leverett, I was on this committee, as you probably might have thought. When we went to Leverett for a big meeting, it was supposed to be a public meeting, but 50% of the people there were all police officers from the region, from Pelham, from Hadley, from Sunderland, from Deerfield. There were 50 police officers there, and they were booing the committee members that were bringing this concept forth. And they did not feel it was appropriate for any chief position in our community to be lost. And those politics, I think, have changed quite a bit. But I think people are more open-minded, but we haven't had a public discussion that was anything like what we had back in 2004. And the question might be, should we hold one?
I would like to suggest that maybe the first thing to do is to include in a survey a question or several questions that address this whole issue, and get a sense from that before we hold a meeting that's public.
Cheryl, can you refine what kind of questions you believe, like if a shared chief is something the public would want to talk about? What kind of, I'm just curious as to the questions that might be posed.
I've had my hand up for quite some time because I've been formulating the questions. So if you don't mind, I'll just interrupt. Sorry.
Go ahead.
As I was listening to this conversation, I started formulating some questions with a view toward what we could potentially ask people. So I think what we could ask in the survey is, would you want to outsource or share a police chief? Now, we would, I think, need to preface that by the potential benefits. And that's something that I'd be interested in hearing about. In addition to the history, what would be the actual benefits? If there are towns that are doing this, what are the actual benefits of sharing a chief for, towns like Shutesbury? Because in order for people to intelligently answer that question, we should probably give them the upsides and the downsides just briefly. But we need to know something objective about that. The second thing that I would suggest, because I have a sense that some of this relates to the amount of money that's being spent on police, I would suggest that we tell people the percentage of our budget that is allotted for our police and ask people if they support that. So like a percentage of the budget and the total amount annually, so that people have a sense of what they're actually paying for. The third thing I think that we should ask them is, what types of needs do you want the police to meet? So, and explain very briefly what community policing is and ask them if they support that kind of model. And I'm actually, the second question that I am curious about, and maybe people can speak to that, is it is my understanding that we have endorsed a community policing model, but I don't know if the townspeople actually understand what that is or have asked for that. And certainly having them have an opportunity to do that
would be educational for them and also maybe positive step towards them participating a little bit more actively in community policing if that's something that they want to do. So those are the 3 suggestions that I have for the survey.
I think that those are all good, certainly good starting points for discussion on the questions. One thing I'd like to add is that one point of what I'm trying to do with Kristen, if we can ever schedule a meeting, is that is to try to figure out how much time gets put in, relatively the percentages of time that's put into the different kinds of tasks that the police do, and if the townspeople feel that that's where they want their money going. Because right now, if you just ask, do you want X% of the budget going towards the police, and they don't know what the police are doing with that, they really don't have the information to answer that question.
Oh, lots of hands.
I think we're going off track of what my topic is here. So I'm going to close out my part of this agenda item. And I will take those inputs that I get from Becky, add them to my report, and then I will get it put back on the agenda at a later date for like a final review. And then I'll turn that in and we'll be done with that number 4 on the charge. If that's good with everyone.
Yep, it is.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
Melody, I saw your hand, I saw Susie's, and then I want to just give an update from last night. So Melody.
Thank you. I just want to say that it sounds like we've been sort of talking about a cost benefit analysis. And I think that's something very difficult to do objectively, because it's almost like saying, well, what is human life worth? And what are your experiences worth? Because, you know, certain people will have different experiences with the police, and some people will have no experience with the police. So I think that's going to be very difficult to quantify. And I'll speak personally that I've had experience with the Shutesbury police and have been nothing but satisfied. I'm impressed beyond measure with our police. But there might be a neighbor of mine or people down the street in another part of town that have never had any interaction with any of the police officers. And so how can they possibly speak to what they think the benefit of the police is if they don't know and they've never interacted with our officers? So I think that it's going to be very difficult to do a cost benefit analysis because it's not objective.
I don't think we were talking about cost benefit. I think we were talking about letting people know how much money they're spending and what they're getting for it, and whether that's what they think the police should be doing.
I know I extrapolated from your comment, Cheryl. I'm not saying you were saying that. So apologies if I was unclear.
Okay.
Do you think, Melody, and I've been putting this together with Becky's help, is just a look at the budget over the last segment of time, just to see where it is and what's been spent and that sort of thing. So that's something we can look at as a picture. But I think Melody does have a good point, is how can you put a price on, people feeling safe in their community? So, that would be hard to analyze.
Right, but when we put together the discussion, however we do, of what the police supplies to us, that can be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just talk about traffic stops and break-ins and stuff. We also talk about what the police does to keep our community safe, because that's an important part of what they do.
Well, and I think we need to ask how many people out there have utilized the services of the Shutesbury police. I mean, we don't even really know. Is that something we have data on? What percentage of the population actually engages with our police?
That's a good question. And I'm going to take a naive look, a comment at this. It may be in what Kristen and Cheryl are looking at, maybe, and we can't have certain information because it's protected and private. So, but how many are shoots? I don't know that you could. And then some people are, for lack of a better word, repeat users of the service and needs of the service, right? So, like you said, Melody, you've interacted, but your neighbor may not, and then 2 neighbors down the road might need to for a couple of months for figuring out an issue too. So, Kristen.
So getting that data we do not have the ability to break it down in that way from the logs. We can't put in a formula and have them, how many times was I at this address, how many times, unless we specifically put in an address. And that would take quite a long time if I did every address in town. I'm sorry. So no, I think that's going to be pretty difficult to figure out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, from the data that we have now, we certainly can't do that.
So I noticed in some of the surveys that we looked at that the survey actually asked people if they had interacted with the police at all, and with whether those interactions were positive. So it might be a good idea, just so that we have a context for people's comments. You know, when the surveys come back, we would know if they had interacted with the police, if they had a positive experience. And I don't know how much into the weeds we would want to get, but then you could look at the people that have interacted versus the ones that haven't, and how they feel about policing in Shutesbury.
Yeah, that's true. But you also have to keep in mind that we're not doing a random sample. This will be a self-selected sample because we can't force people to fill these out. And so it's not going to, it will give us biased information. It will not be unbiased.
I see Kristen. I have seen Susie. Can Susie go before you, Kristen? She's had her hand up. Okay, Susie.
So I think it's also important to know that in my heart of hearts, Shutesbury is not special. It is a town. It's got people. It provides services. It costs something. I don't think only looking at Shutesbury's budget would tell us how we are relative to other towns trying to provide services. So I think it would have to include a survey of like towns. And there's still going to be some differences, and some of that is perhaps the goals of the department. The goals of the department don't come from the department. They come from the select board. And the select board has long ago decided that community policing is a model that they feel offers a kind of policing that is healthy, probably prevents certain kinds of problems. And it hasn't always been that way. They evolved to that. And so it is in the select board's charge to help to take care of the town and to make choices that protect the town. So yes, people can find out what community policing is, and they can even have an opinion about it. But the select board is the body that has to be responsible for how it directs its departments to carry out services.
Thank you, Susie. Kristen.
I just wanted to say with that survey idea of have you interacted with the police and what kind of experience have you had? We really need to keep in mind that sometimes, how unfortunate it may be, that some people are not going to have a good experience with us because we're telling them that they need to obey the law. So, and not everyone likes that. So just keeping that in mind for one. And two, just somewhat limited, but I do know a bunch of different, a bunch of my colleagues and I have spoken about what percentage police departments cost towns. And typically it is 3% across the board. I think you're going to find that it doesn't really go much over that.
3%. Oh, yeah, the school is 60% or something like that.
Yeah. Longmeadow PD, for instance, is 3% as well, continually.
Michael. I'm sorry, Cheryl. Go ahead.
To say that I disagree about having the survey to other towns because this is something that we are trying to figure out specific to this town.
I think Susie was talking about looking at budgets from other towns to see where ours compares to other towns, right, Susie? Yep. I think that's what you were talking about. I think the word survey is she meant looking at those towns, you know, someone sitting down and surveying their budgets, seeing where they fall. I don't think it was specific to the survey for information that we have on our idea. wants
Right.
to do.
So,
Okay.
I've got, I'm wondering where we're at, like, what are we discussing? Are we down to the review surveys agenda item
I
right
know
now?
we're a little, first, well, no, we kind of got off a little off track. So there's one bit of information I think the committee should have that we learned at our select board meeting and had to make a decision with Kristen last night, is that we have assigned Kristen acting chief of the Shutesbury Police Department. The reason we had to do that was she was encountering significant delays in information, unable to attend meetings because she didn't have the police title, knocked out of a Zoom, and I don't remember if it was the post Zoom, but knocked out of the Zoom meeting because the priority was given to Massachusetts chiefs. And not being able to give input and vote at various things across the state, county, and such that affect the police department as an officer in charge. So in conversation with her last night, the select board did assign the acting chief so that she has the ability to maintain getting the information, being able to maintain the operations of the department, the flexibility she needs to be able to do that, keep us in compliance across the state. And did I miss anything there, Kristen or Rita? I think that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah,
So what we've learned is departments need to have a chief in their structure, whether it's shared, regionalized, or independent, autonomous to the town. There needs to be someone in that chief position. We can't do a structure that doesn't have that title because it's not recognized across the state. So we have to keep that in mind as we're going through and thinking creatively about our police department in the study group. We're really pinned to having at least a leadership role that is chief. Kristen, go ahead.
Just to add on to that, I think there needs to be an understanding with the new reform bill that Governor Charlie Baker enacted. There are a lot of new statutes that are coming out, and that plays into all this.
So anyway, that's an update we all have to keep in mind as we're working through this, that is something we have to keep in mind how it's going to be, how it might function across the state, where chiefs are the ones that are seen. Officer in charge or something of that nature is only for short-term vacation, medical leave, meeting, out of town stuff. So it's a very temporary position, and we had reached the end of our ability to use that for our department. So just so everybody knows that information. So do we have any more questions for Mike on the history of our past efforts for looking into different chief options? No? Okay. Let's move on to the call log data. I think we kind of have an update there. We don't have anything new. We have the data that was pulled together before, which is still great data, and just don't have the refined data. That's what I'm feeling and have heard, but Kristen or Cheryl, is there anything that I missed there?
No, we're
So-
working on getting together for a meeting. My apologies, this most recent one, my fiance was in a motorcycle accident, and that took priority for me. So I appreciate everyone's patience. We will get to that.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we did have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, but it's not on the calendar. Did it not get put on the calendar, Becky?
It did not. I'm sorry. I've been very confused with, there were multiple requests.
Yeah, okay. So we have to reschedule, Kristen.
Just be sure, I'll just remind everybody, just be sure that it's posted exactly 48 hours from or before, if you can, 36 hours or larger than 48 is fine
72.
too, but make sure it fits into the.
Cheryl, I'll email you tomorrow with my schedule.
Okay.
Okay, so then the next topic is surveys.
But before
Oh.
I move on, I have a question on the logs.
ahead. Go ahead.
So And these are the spreadsheet that that Cheryl had showed us a couple meetings ago. That's what we're talking about, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so I was wondering, where is the raw data coming from? Is that, I mean, there's the logs that are on the town website and everything like that, but the spreadsheets seem to be a little bit more in depth than those. And I was just wondering where the data is coming from.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Okay, Mike, so I get all of the data and the logs from Shelburne Control, our dispatch. They provide the logs and the data. I then give that to Cheryl and she then formulates the spreadsheet from the logs itself.
Okay, and so this is the information that you guys are working with is a little bit different than what's on the website for the town and everything. Is that?
No, Mike, it's the same information. It's just condensed down.
Yeah, and I think the format is a little different. We've been getting the monthly report from Shelburne Control, and that's what I've been putting on the website. Kristen was able to go back 7 years, I think it is. And so they ran it in a different format. And what you're seeing as different categories and stuff, it's reflecting different police officers and police chiefs. We've 3 police chiefs over that period. So the way officers entered information varied over time is what we're seeing. And that's why I think they're working so hard on the categories to make sure that's clear, that things are grouped appropriately.
But the numbers, Mike, the actual numbers are coming from Shelburne Control. They are the ones that hold our information.
Okay, I understand that and everything, and it's bringing me back to the that letter that Paul Latch wrote about various policing ideas and things like that. One of them was the call logs, and he talked about being able to access the data from Shelburne Control and putting it in I guess maybe a more detailed format or whatever. But I don't know if you guys have looked at that or anything, or just coming up with a method or a system that you've designed or whatever.
No, I'm not designing anything. I don't have to. I just get it from Shelburne Control. And I'm not sure about what letter we're speaking of. Did he send us a letter?
He sent to the select board quite a while ago, and it's been floating around different places. But he's got some experience with how the call logs get reported and stuff like that. I didn't know if that would be a valuable resource to use or anything. That's the only thing I'm asking.
So I've been in touch with the supervisor, Charles Garrity, at Shelburne Control, and he has provided everything to my email. So the information that came in through has gone directly to Cheryl, so we can provide that.
Sounds good.
Mike, what we're doing is not trying to rename things or to reorganize things. All we're doing is taking the data that we have and putting it into buckets, so to speak, so that we can make sense of where our police department is spending its time.
Right. Yeah, and that makes sense. I just I didn't know if there was an easier way to do it, and Paul seemed to have some ideas, but you guys seem to have a handle on it. So
this is not difficult, what we're doing. What's difficult is trying to get one very busy person able to meet with somebody who's sitting around twiddling her thumbs, but that's beside the point. We're just having trouble getting a chance to meet, that's all.
And you said you guys were gonna schedule something, try to schedule something in the next week to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly. Okay, so if we want to move, I know we talked a little bit about surveys. We've kind of some of that through. Did we want to do a little bit more information on that?
The only information is that, again, we have not been able to come up with a time when the three of us can meet. Oh, well, I take that back. We have come up with a time. It's,
Monday,
hold on.
Monday, 5:30.
Monday, October 4th. So Becky, make sure that that's scheduled, please.
Kristen, that's not you.
That's not you.
Okay, thank you.
That's the survey
Yeah.
subcommittee.
Panic.
Yeah.
We'll all have a chance to do input on whatever comes out of that. But that was the subcommittee for surveys, and that was Becky, Cheryl, and
No, not Becky.
Melody.
I'm sorry,
Mary Jo, and
Melody.
Cheryl.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I just wanted to also remind us who that was. Okay, so did we want to talk a little bit about surveys now, or just wait until after you guys have met to do a more in-depth look at that?
We have nothing to talk about.
Okay, well, we kind of talked about some stuff. I didn't know if anyone had other ideas.
I appreciate the input. It's helpful.
It is. I think it is.
So.
Oh, Rita, go ahead.
So, do you want us to submit questions, to you that we think might be appropriate for the survey, and then let the subcommittee decide?
Hash out.
That
Well,
would
it
be
sounds
very
like
helpful.
Mary Jo is coming up with some questions today, so it seems like it might be worthwhile,
Well,
and you
Mary-
can,
Mary Jo is on the subcommittee. So people who are not on the subcommittee, we also want your input.
okay,
Please.
okay, great,
Yeah,
that's what I
that's
was asking.
That's a good idea. If anyone thinks of them, I know I asked Becky a couple of questions that I thought of after our meeting last night, this
Mhm.
morning. So that might be a good idea as you, go about your daily activities and, oh, this would be a great survey question. And then toss it to Cheryl or Mary Jo or, Melody, whoever, just toss it. It bounces, whatever.
Now, wait a minute. We have to be careful that we are not violating the open meeting law when we do that.
No, that's why I said send one to one of them
To
individually.
just one person.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So don't
then you-
reply,
you
just
don't just-
collect.
You don't
Collect the
discuss it, you
questions,
just
don't
hand
reply.
it over to the committee to look at.
Yeah. So that's the rules. Somebody can send us a question. We cannot reply.
Just don't reply. Yep.
So I've got a bit of a concern. My take on the whole survey thing is that it's a very, it's very easy to get a very biased survey produced if you don't know what you're doing. And
Yes.
Cheryl, you've mentioned that you've had a lot of experience with doing these surveys, and you're confident that you can put together a survey that is objective and unbiased as possible. So I'm a little concerned that if we're feeding questions, I know I don't have the experience to submit a
Mike,
question.
Mike, it's fine. We will discuss them. We will change them as necessary to make sure it's not going to give us a biased answer. And then we'll come back to the whole group with it.
That's what I would expect. We're handing it off to someone with a lot of expertise. You could choose to
Well-
ignore our questions too.
Correct.
But we'll tell we're doing that. We won't just ignore it.
I'm just kidding.
I think what Rita's saying is if it doesn't get used, no one's going to be hurt.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
maybe prompting an idea. Maybe it comes up with a better question now from just an idea question, right? I think that's what you're getting.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, I'm looking at Cheryl, who has said that she's got the experience to be able to do this. And Cheryl, when you say, well, we'll develop the survey, bring it back to the group and let them decide about it.
No,
That makes.
No, that's not what I'm, Mike, what I'm saying is if you give us a question, we will consider that question. We will consider what's behind that question. and we will formulate a question that will not give us a biased answer. And we will talk to you about that.
Okay, all right. That's just, I'm just expressing my concern I'm willing to work with that. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't see anyone. Mary Jo, I thought I saw a hand.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm thinking would be very helpful in terms of our getting ready for the survey is making sure that people in the town have access to information that we've had access to from Kristen, and know a little bit more than they know right now about our process. I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that people have to email Becky if they want to see video. And I'm wondering if that's because it's not possible to post video online for people.
I think, and Becky can correct me if I'm wrong, but it falls under the open meeting records, right? To get I don't remember.
No,
I-
actually, we have been posting them online, the videos online, and I was asking the town clerk, I couldn't find the page. She said it was a police study group on the shutesbury.org website, but I'm not finding it. So I'm trying to clarify with her because I know we have most of the information that Mike reviewed is already posted, and we have a lot of other information available. So I think, Mary Jo, you're on track that what we need to do is get that information out to people, direct them there, do an announcement saying that, in a couple, in a short amount of time, we will be coming out with a survey. And you would benefit more from the survey if you reviewed the materials available online.
So
And-
I actually found it, Becky.
Great. Is it
It's
under
on the
police
select
page?
board page. It's on the
Is
select
it?
board page, and it's the third one down that says information about this police study group.
Oh, it's in bold.
And if you click on that, it gives our membership, and then it has the recordings and minutes.
Oh, that's great.
Yep,
So
it's all great.
would it be possible to send out a general announcement with a link
Yeah.
for people so
I
that
think
they don't have to hunt?
Yeah, I think we should, I'll get help making a link that goes directly to that page. And I think it would also, I think the other information, Susie, is on which page? The reports that you've been reading through, like the South County, is that on the select board page?
I think it's on I was just there. Let me look.
I think we need to group it all together. So
Yeah.
we'll have it there.
Yeah, I think it should be all in one place. So Becky, I can help you with that link. We can just hyperlink it. I can show
Okay,
you the
what's it-
hyperlink when it comes time.
And also we should probably add that video from, that was done with Chief Hernandez, but there were a lot of questions asked there that people might want to review
Oh,
that.
the information session.
Some stuff is on the police department page, so it wouldn't be bad to have a page called the police study group and pull everything together, or have something on the home page that is the link that goes to everything. But right now it's in a couple of different places, and that's probably confusing.
Right, that's what we want to pull together, and I'll work with Grace this week. That will be my task.
The other thing to think about is if it probably would make a lot of sense to have this survey available for people to do online. And maybe this page would be a great place to put a link to the survey.
And I think we will also want to do a town announce and email it out to at least the 600 households on town announce.
Yeah, and
It's
direct them
usually
to that page as the place to
And
find it.
direct them
maybe.
to that, the survey page.
And so everybody's
just
going
want
to the same place.
I just want to point out that if you start out a survey by saying, please review, and then give a whole list of long documents, we will get 0 responses.
No,
No,
I think
we're
you
really
do it the other
respectful.
way around. You say, here's a survey. If you like extra resources, you can look at these. I think it's better to
That's the way to,
right.
Yes.
So here's a survey. We would love your input. If you'd like to look at these resources during taking the survey, or just for information, here are those resources. I think that's the better way to envelope it or package it.
But we're
Yes, and-
not trying to do them at the same time. We're trying to, because it'll take time for people to read the materials. So we want to alert people where materials are to read, watch videos, because there's an upcoming survey. And then we would announce the survey separately when
But
it's ready.
we don't want to make people think that they can't take the survey if they don't look at those materials,
We won't.
because very few people who look at those materials.
I think Cheryl has a good point. If they feel like they have to do homework before answering questions, I think you also then don't necessarily get correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl, in a survey, you want someone's like gut reaction or gut feeling to a question. You don't want them to have too much information to
Oh,
water that down. Is that correct?
Doesn't matter whether they have
Okay.
a lot of information
Okay.
or little information. And in fact, they would give more, if they gave more informed responses, that would make it a better survey. It's just that we won't have enough people to make it worthwhile. If
I
we
see.
if we say, you need to actually read these documents, which I wouldn't read those documents, all of them. I just wouldn't. And I'm interested in this.
I don't agree.
And I have lots of time too.
I don't, but I still read them. But I hear what you both are saying though. I saw another hand, Melody.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I apologize if this is too granular, and maybe this needs to be saved for the subcommittee, but I'm just throwing it out there. I'm hoping that we will consider technology as we throw this survey online, because there are a lot of bad actors and malicious people out there that can try to use these kinds of online forms in ways that are extremely hurtful. If you look at what just happened at UMass recently, there has been a lot of violence against African Americans and Black students, and it was done through a submittable form online. So I just think that we need to be very mindful of how this technology is used and how we can protect the town and the residents from any liability, and certainly from causing any harm.
I agree.
I agree, and I
yeah.
think that we realized how easily we could be hacked for things that we do online last night. That was a major concern. So Melody, thank you for that one.
Yes, no, I think that's something we really need to consider.
And there are limitations too with an online survey. We can ask behind the programming, we can lower some things down so that it's one per email address and that sort. I mean, there's some things that you can instill in there that are able to have some control over too much.
We certainly want to make sure that we're only getting one response per person.
Yeah. Very true. Okay. Are we ready to move on from this topic? There's a bug flying around here. I apologize. The next
Since we didn't
one.
have any to report, we could probably move on, yes.
Okay. Hold on. Now my agenda is. I clicked off it to find the page. Okay, so the next thing was review survey. So next steps, and one of the things that I did, and Becky and I did just for planning of our next few meetings, because we want to have them on the calendar, and Mike had talked about a little bit. So our next few meetings by the calendar set by the chart, or by every second and third, second, fourth, is 10/14, 10/14. Oops, I'm on November now. 10/14, 10/28, and then there was, well, it can't be 10/11 or 11/11. That's a holiday.
10, I think
11/10.
we're asking for a Wednesday,
11/10,
for Veterans Day.
11/10.
11/10
I'm
because
trying
of
to-
Veterans Day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is a Wednesday. The other
It
one.
is. So that changes a little bit of the formula up a little bit. Before we head into the other thoughts of next agendas, does that work with everyone's schedule that they know of right now?
I guess I don't know when the FinCom is meeting. It's meeting on Wednesdays until December 7th. And I don't know if that's particularly one of them.
I think it wasn't, but I will double check, Susie.
Thank you.
Double check. Okay. It
I'm
being the
not-
last one, we could have a little bit of flex, I think there maybe. And bounce it, you know.
I'm not sure about the 10th there. I'll have to check on
Okay.
that one.
So I'll just, Susie and Mike. Okay,
I
Have
am
to-
fine. I'm fine with those 3 days.
you are. Okay. Kristen, Melody, Mary Jo, Rita.
I just need to check the 14th. My calendar says I have a training, so I'm just going to check to see what time it is because in this calendar I didn't put the time. I'll get back to you tomorrow morning.
Thank you. So we were meeting at 5:30. Does that still work for the group, or do we want to meet closer to 6 or split it in the middle and 5:45? How do people feel?
Earlier is
Melissa-
better for me, but
Okay.
if people want to move it later, that's fine.
Melissa, you're the one who has
I know
started-
I'm the one that's working that races around. So
Doesn't matter to me. Time is
I
flexible.
think 5:30. Let me just calculate. So this week I'm in the office 1, 2, next week, this week, that week. So the 14th I'm in the office, but I can be back in Shutesbury by 5:30 because I can adjust my leaving time. We don't have meetings that day. And then Monday and the same thing. So I should be okay. I'm looking at the work calendar now to be there by 5:30. I have a trained tech consultant known as Chris, my husband. So he has now learned how to set stuff up so he can always swoop in and have it there for us, Becky, if we do a virtual, I mean, a hybrid.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. So that's okay. So those will be at 5:30. Okay. So the thoughts on going forward for structuring the next few, and I know we still have the surveys on there. Mike, you were going to make updates to your history, which may be ready for next or not. And so this is what the ideas that Becky and I put together this afternoon, just to bounce the ideas off, and I'm bouncing them off of all of you, is so the next one on the 14th, I thought we'd take because of the information we got last night at Select Board, we take our 3-4 options, and Becky, I'm going to add another option to the one we talked about today. So I thought we might, just as a thinking spot, because we had the history today, take a few minutes and just give out pros and cons of what we can think of off the top of our head for regionalization, shared chief, staying with our independent police department, and then relying on mass state police, because I think that's a topic that we have heard a few times and we have to kind of think through. So I want to take a little bit of time to do that so that we can maybe there's information we need along those that we can hone in on.
Can you say what the pros and cons of regionalization and what else?
Regionalization, pros and cons of shared chief, pros and cons of our independent police department, and then pros and cons of relying mainly on mass state police as our policing option.
There's another option that we haven't discussed at all, and maybe it's not appropriate. I know some towns are going to, instead of having fire department and police department separate, they're going to like a safety department with one chief over both of those, plus the ambulance.
They still, I believe, have chiefs of individual departments. They're merging them into something called emergency management teams or emergency management departments, but the individual departments underneath each still have their leadership to participate across state chiefs and such organizations.
Okay, because
we do have something similar. We have our emergency management team, and the two people ahead of that are Walter, fire chief, and then the chief spot in our police department. They're the two that are the top people that run. Go ahead, Kristen.
Well, I know that.
And also,
in Shirley, we talked about doing that, and then I moved, and I don't know whether it was ever implemented, but it would mean that there was one person who was chief.
No, it's
And
not
that-
legal.
Too much.
so So if I may, that's not legal. You can't do that within the guidelines of the law, particularly now with a lot of the new laws that are coming out. Also, they are combining areas of work. So they're making safety complexes that are a fire department and a police department within that safety complex, but they are autonomous within.
Okay.
And I'm not sure on your list, Melissa. I'm not sure where like the Wendell Leverett model fits into that. I mean, that's an intermunicipal agreement. Is that and I don't know what regionalization would look like. I don't know what that would.
That's what we're kind of trying to figure out as we do this, to see what.
the South-
Go ahead.
The South County survey helped me understand how those are defined, the regionalization, the fee for services. So they called, they called things regionalized that we would have maybe in the past called shared chief. But what's happening in Wendell Leverett is a fee for service. So you, I guess that should be clarified in this list. Fee for service is different than shared chief.
Yeah.
One town takes the responsibility.
Right. So is it on the list or not?
I'd say we could change shared chief into fee for service,
Oh.
because regionalization is really when you have a chief that is the police department for all the towns together. So when you
Well,
think
Right,
about a
which is actually
school,
more of the that's more of what Mike's talking about than the shared chief. Shared would be 50-50 in each town above 2 departments. Pay for service is a little more like regionalization, because there would be a fee assessed to the towns within that region, with one town having more pull, a little bit like the regional assessment for the high school for the region.
I think that the regionalization requires more paperwork. It's a lot more complicated to define. I think the assessment is where you have one town that receives and one town that provides service.
That's the pay service one, right?
So it makes it's different than the required documentation is less in fee for service than in the regionalization agreement. So maybe we should add fee for service as a fifth one.
We can add that as another one, because I don't want to take one over, because I think a shared chief is specifically, you have one person doing 50-50 in each town. Kind of like
Melissa,
yeah.
could we do this, please? Could we come up with a list of what we are calling things and a list of what the definitions are? And then can we vote on that the names we're using are the definitions that we are using for these, just so that there's no confusion whatsoever with that.
Yeah, we had some confusion before in
Yeah,
another group that we had to do
so
that.
before
So
we,
I'll write
yeah,
up the definitions, yeah, and I'll send them around so
that'd
that
be
we
great.
don't interchangeably use. So we're all on the same page.
Perfect.
But we can add the fee for service one to that top one. Okay. Was there any, so that's kind of what we want to do, at least for a few minutes of the 1014, is kind of pull out some pros and cons, because there may be something that just drops off completely that we aren't interested in pursuing, or not any further. And that's kind of where that will stay. And then we move on to looking at these others. The other one was the draft of a budget that I'm doing, with putting together multiple years of our budget. And I'll see if I can survey or look at other towns to get an idea of what they're spending in comparison. Similar towns. I'll do the definitions, the glossary, and then Becky, I know you had other notes written down. I don't know that I followed them all completely. on the 28th. Was there anything else on the 14th that we had talked about, Becky? I think
We
that
were
was it.
trying to determine whether the survey should be worked on more on the 28th. Because
Yes, that's right. So we had pushed the survey to
with
the
hopes of
28th in hopes that
with
we'd have a
hopes of
draft.
getting it approved by the 28th so we can get it out. I don't
So
know.
we'd have a draft on the 14th? We'd have a draft from Cheryl and Mary Jo?
And
And
Melody.
Melody.
No?
First, or what we could do is maybe a draft on the 28th, and we can really spend a good portion of our meeting honing that to get it ready to get out so we can get some information back.
Yeah.
And to help us keep going and what we're,
I think there should be some conversation on the 14th about the survey, just so you guys
Yeah.
will have
Yes,
been able to meet.
absolutely.
We can make sure we're all going the same direction. And then hopefully by the 28th, if it's final, not final, but
a good
by the
draft
end
to
of the
work with and
meeting.
finalize. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes.
then, yeah, because the hope would be to get it out before November, if we can.
So that we can allow some time for people to answer it, but also not lag our committee going too far into winter time and such.
Yeah, yeah, but I think we might be able to pull things together, the final report by the end of November, middle of December, if we stay on task.
And then the 10th, we were gonna look at some survey results if we have them from the public. And
And determine
hopefully,
what other questions haven't, we need to go through and look at all the categories that we had in the charge and make sure we have reviewed them all. So if everybody could look that over for this upcoming meeting and pick something that no one's working on, that would be great.
and just let me know what you're working on so we don't have too many overlaps either. We don't want too many people working on the same thing. Right, Becky? And then Becky and I had also discussed about her and I pulling together our resources and such to create an information binder, and then ultimately the suggestion or report to the select board, kind of coinciding with getting some of that stuff done. So we don't get too much ahead of ourselves and then try to do it with all this information. So that was something Becky and I were gonna work on too. And then on I think the 10th was the survey results, and then anything else that we had worked on and to report back.
That's not going to be enough time for this to get answers from the survey.
Well, maybe some information though will give us some information so we can have just a sneak peek on what it's looking like.
Well, we can have a sneak peek on how many people are responding for sure.
Yeah. So some information that we're able to just look at,
Well, if we have.
is it working?
Yeah, but if you use Survey Monkey, you can view the results at any point in time.
Yes, exactly. But what I'm saying is, you're talking about getting your results collated getting your results in and collated in 10 days. That's just not going to happen.
Well, that's what my point. Survey Monkey pretty much collates them. If that's what we use.
Right.
It tabulated all the results.
We will not have enough survey results for it to be meaningful in 10 days.
We had almost 200 within 4 days on a survey that we did last year.
What was the survey on?
It was on the annual town meeting date.
Right. That's a whole different thing.
Well, we can certainly
We
see
don't
where we
need to
are.
argue about it now. We can see what happens.
Yeah.
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 But I'm just saying, don't expect that on the 10th, we're going to know the feeling of the town from the surveys. I just can't imagine that we'll get enough information by then.
Well, we'll know if people are responding though. That would be the important data to know if they're responding in some way,
Yes.
right?
What would be a realistic timeframe?
I think the survey should be available for people to respond to for a month?
What we could, so here's just a quick thought, thinking of that information. We could do an initial push on the early, see how many come in by the 10th, and maybe do a reminder one to get a second push if we haven't gotten enough responses.
Well, it's not a matter of not getting enough responses. It's a matter of trying to make it as representative of the town as possible. And the first push is going to be people who feel strongly about the police. And as Kristen pointed out, very often that's going to be people who have negative feelings about the police. And I think we need to give, I mean, people who don't want to make their negative feelings known quickly are much more likely, or probably much more likely, to put off responding to the survey, especially when it, even if it doesn't make homework required, it still implies that they need to do some homework. I think those people are much less likely to respond immediately when the survey becomes available. I think we need to give them time. And we can't expect that the initial responses will be indicative of what the final response to, what we find from the survey after everybody who wants to respond has had a chance to do so.
Should we have a goal of a certain number of surveys completed that we can publish and say, what, so far we've heard from so many people, we really need to hear from you. We're looking to hear from this many more by such and such a date. Sometimes people tend to not do something until the last minute.
Yes, that's the world we live in.
We need to do that in any case because there are people who are procrastinators and people who are not procrastinators. And so we have to allow for both of those. And they will come from all different ranges of opinions.
I can offer a suggestion that worked at my employer when we did a staff survey.
I know what I wanted to say. There is there has been work done that talks about what percentage of your target audience you need to have respond to a survey for it to be statistically useful. And I will look that up. I don't know what it is. I know that if you get like 5%, which is not unusual in surveys, that gives you meaningless results. I think my gut feeling is that if you get 30 to 40%, you're doing pretty well, but I'll look it up.
My employer went through a couple of very long surveys for staff morale and trying to figure out happiness and that sort of thing. They were able to get 90 or 80, I guess 80, I think it was 80% on the second one of the staff replying. And the reason they did is they incentivized it and said, if this many surveys come in, you get a day off of work. Maybe we can incentivize by if you reply, you're entered in for a raffle.
We can't do that. And also, that was a survey that your boss or your boss's boss told you to do.
But it wasn't mandatory. They just incentivized the report. It was done by a third party.
There's a whole different dynamic going on there than one where you have a committee of a town asking the townspeople. The townspeople are going to say, who are they, as opposed to, oh, my boss wants me to do this. So anyway, I'll look up what kind of responses we need to have something that will give us a statistically valid survey.
Well, Cheryl, I think that also has to be germane to police surveys. I mean, we need to know some of the work that Susie did, like what kind of responses were they getting? Because our survey we have to compare apples to apples, I believe.
I disagree. This is a statistical thing, not something that's specific to police surveys. It's a statistical thing that's specific to general public surveys.
Susie?
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
I think that we have to also accept that we are a small town with volunteers. We are decentralized. There's no newspaper. There's no easy way for people to see each other and talk to each other. It's going to be what it is. And I think we need to not get too bogged down right now. We're going to give it a shot. We might find we need more time. And I feel like when I signed on to this, I know that being on a town board that's a volunteer is a long haul, and I'll ride the wave.
Oh, hello, Charlie.
Well, I think Cheryl's concern is valid. I mean, if you do a survey and the response rate is such that it's considered invalid, then, I don't think we should be using those results. So I think that's a valid concern.
That's exactly my point, Mike. Thank you.
My understanding is that between 15 to 20% is, you're by 20%, it's a solid response rate in a typical survey. And I could be
Well,
wrong, but that's what I've understood in the past.
that's why I want to look at the statistical the statistical analyses that have been done on this, and instead of me guessing and you guessing, and I want to see what's been published.
Go ahead, Susie, I see your hand.
The other piece is that the survey and results are part of the picture. They're not the total picture. There are other obligations to think about and other criteria to think about. So we will take that piece. And it helps us, it helps form our understanding, but it's not the deciderer.
No,
Right,
you're
exactly.
absolutely.
But it also is important to know what the validity is when we take it into consideration.
Yeah, I guess my only other question is it's 20% or 15% of what? What are we using? Registered voters? Who's taking the survey?
That's another question.
Good
Is
point.
it household? Is
Is it the household? Right.
registered voters? We have to make that decision. And again, I'll see what's been published.
It
Mhm.
has
Because-
to be individuals because it has to be by email address.
Yeah, but some
Well,
people have
that's-
shared email addresses.
Exactly.
There are
Some people have
households that-
multiple email addresses.
Mhm.
Multiple email addresses.
Or multiples, right? But that's something
So-
that would be useful for the subcommittee, for the survey subcommittee to come back with some recommendations.
Right, because like I have 3 email addresses, and I'm sure other people have more than one. I also know people who have 1 email address for 2 or 3 people.
Right.
So, yeah, we have to, I don't think email address is the right way to go about it, but we'll have to think about that.
Okay. All right, lots to think about in that arena. Go ahead, Susie.
So
I
Melissa, do
see
you
Mary
want
Jo-
me to go ahead and find out from Sunderland, Whately and South Deerfield what their thoughts were after they went through the process?
Of survey? Or of,
So in the South County report, there were recommendations made, and it's clear that they were not taken. So do we want to find out what happened when 3 different towns went through the process that we're thinking about? What they found as pros and cons that led them to not do it?
I think that's not a bad exercise to do, Susie.
Okay.
Because their concerns or their pros and cons can be very similar to ours, So, yeah,
I'll
I
do
think
that.
good exercise. Mary Jo.
So I think Susie brought up a really good point when she said there may be other criteria besides the survey that go into a decision-making process. And I think that we ought to give some time on the agenda to specifically discuss what those are.
The
Because
other factors.
yeah, because for the sake of transparency, if you ask people questions, if you put out a survey and they tell you something, and then you make a decision based on other things, they're definitely going to want to know what are those other things, and we need to have them someplace spelled out pretty clearly.
Okay.
And we should
Now-
have, it would be helpful to me going into the survey so that I can not ask people questions that are going to make them feel like they have more influence in areas where they may not have influence.
I think we will not be formulating our questions so that people think they have influence.
I'm
Will
not,
it be
yeah, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that surveys serve multiple purposes. And one of them is to make people feel like they have a say. I just don't want to give people the impression that they have a say on issues where we've decided that they're not going to have a say.
I think, and Cheryl can correct me, but I think a survey can be formulated just to, we're picking your brain to see what kind of ideas and thoughts you guys have, so that we can
Yeah.
add that to our decision-making process, right? So,
I think we're thinking about the survey in different ways. And so the first thing that the subcommittee needs to do is to clarify what everybody thinks the survey is going to do so that we're all moving in the same direction.
I like that, Cheryl. I think that's a good idea as a starting point for the survey. I think that's a great idea. Is there anybody have any other questions about the future agendas we sort of laid out? They can be somewhat flexible because we don't know what might pop up either. So
We've covered a lot of stuff here. So just what is the October 14th?
So that was the one where
Meeting.
we were going to spend a little time doing pros and cons on it was the 4, but now 5 options. Just our quick thoughts of what pros and cons could be. Just as a way to start honing in what we, why is this not working? Honing in what we want to define and to see what comes out of that, because I think that'll help us inform where our research should go to help define those. And then I was going to give a little bit of a budget comparison. Becky, was there anything else on there? That's all I had.
I think that's going to take a
I
lot.
got most of it. Okay.
And the last thing was the survey, a report from the subcommittee, maybe on those initial clarification of
update,
first step, what the
That's up-
survey is going to do. That would be key if we could hammer that out and still cover all the structures and the budget and budget comparisons to other towns.
And then we'll have a glossary for the next one that defines regionalization. What does that mean? Shared chief and the 5 we're looking at. Then, and anything else that we might want to add. We'll let the glossary being a living document. I have a feeling we'll need other definitions. And then on the 10th, the 28th.
Wait a minute. On the 14th, hopefully by then, Kristen and I will have gone through the line items and classified all of them so that we will have an updated spreadsheet for everyone.
Great. So we add that too.
Update on survey, update on data.
And Melissa, we'll need the labels before the 14th, because we're going to be
Okay.
weighing the pros and cons, and we need to use the labels.
Yeah, I'll get that out beforehand.
Okay,
We'll just have it as a living document too, just so we have it in
okay,
case there's anything else we need to define.
all right.
And then the 28th, we had on there this potentially the much more finished survey, and we could spend a good chunk of our time honing that to be able to get it out quickly after that. And then some more updates if we need to on other work. Susie, do you think that look into the South County pros and cons, you would be able to help us with the 14th stuff, or would you
Yeah,
prefer?
and so I'm thinking I should be able to write that up, just what I heard from them as information that goes out to people. Nobody can discuss it, but they can see it before
We
the
could look at it
14th.
and think about it. Yep. Okay, and then on hopefully the November 10th, we can have a little update on what kind of responses we're getting from that first survey. Initial toss out of the survey to the public. And then leave some room for maybe a little more budget stuff and certainly some more updates with data and such. So I think the 10th will come, that agenda will come as we go a little further down the road, once we have our next meeting or the meeting after.
And don't forget that the survey committee is meeting on the Monday, the 4th. That's next Monday. And if you have suggestions for questions, please send them to us. We will not respond, but send them to us.
Don't respond.
And Melissa, I'll post the 10, 14, and November 10th.
Mhm.
Sorry, the October 14th, October 28th, and November 10th. I'll get those meetings posted tonight.
On the 28th and the 10th, can you put a line that says
More,
check back closer to the meetings in case there's updates on the agenda, just so
yeah, I will write that.
they're not final. Okay, thank you.
That's a good way.
Just to say this is kind of preliminary, but
Yeah.
there will be updated closer to the meeting. 48 hours before the meeting. Yes, Mary Jo.
So this is just, I guess, maybe a kind of a point of order. I was noticing during our meeting that there was somebody that tuned in to us, had a question, told that we were going to talk among ourselves before they got a chance to say anything, and then had to leave the meeting.
And she never came back.
And she didn't come back. So my feeling is, particularly given our charge and the fact that we need to be soliciting public input, I would like for people, when they take the time to tune into our meeting, that they be given the same opportunity to speak that we have. I don't think it would take that much time for them, and I think it would be a courtesy that would show our openness and desire to hear from the public, which I think is really one of the most important things that this committee is doing.
How do others, I know Rachel's been waiting with a question. She also had her hand up, so I don't want to miss her. Does anyone how do the people in the committee feel about that? We can have.
I have a quick opinion.
Uh-huh.
I definitely always want to hear from people, so I agree with that. However, I don't think that it should be throughout the meeting. I think there should be anything in the beginning and then maybe an opportunity at the end, as long as we keep everything in a good time frame.
I saw your hand, Susie. I saw Becky's. I see Mike's. So Susie.
And people can also send in things in writing. But I believe that trying to get through a meeting with our agenda, having a public comment period is important, and then we need to keep going. And so I think also the public needs to learn how this goes, and having a clear policy and then saying people can also write in or email in is the other way we get that information.
Thank you.
Becky, isn't there a way in meetings for somebody to write a question on the side of the screen or
Yes,
something
we
like
could
that?
use the chat function. We could start
We
using.
have been using the chat function, and because it became a problem,
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
it got abused.
Could
I
we
just,
experiment maybe a little with it? And if it gets too out of control, we could. I'm just a thought. I'm just a thought. I'm not sold on it. I'm just kind of offering it. Mike.
yeah, I'm of the mind that if someone comes to a meeting and they have a question that's pertaining to the discussion that's going on, that they should be able to ask their question or make their comment as the meeting goes on. Otherwise, there's no point for anyone to attend a meeting if they're not going to be able to express themselves at either just the beginning or the end. Then there's no reason to attend a meeting. So I'd like to see that people can join in the discussion. They just need to be recognized by the chair. And it's unfortunate that, either whoever had a question and didn't get it answered tonight, they may have gotten it answered and then left. Or, maybe they did run out of time and couldn't wait to get recognized or whatever. But I do think, the public needs to be able to participate in this on a real lifetime basis.
So why
My
don't
concern
we,
is that it's 8 o'clock already. We had a really tough time getting through everything that we already got through tonight. And if we added in all of that, and trust me, I'm the one who keeps saying I want the people there, but I mean, we need to keep on a time frame here, and it's already 8 o'clock now, so.
Well, I
So why
think
don't-
more of the issue is staying on the agenda. I mean, we transitioned from my report into various different things, ending up at the survey information, which was the last thing on the agenda. And, we kind of bounced all over the place. If we keep on the agenda, I don't think we're going to have a problem time-wise.
Becky, and then I think might have a solution. Becky and Susie.
Okay, Mike, to that point, I think I found that when we take questions from the public, it usually goes in a new direction and does take you right off the agenda frequently. I think it has to be the discretion of the chair. If it's a meeting like tonight, when we can take Rachel's questions, and it's unfortunate, I didn't realize the other person even had a question. But I think it has to be the chair's discretion, because if you have 12 people instead of 2, you don't get anything done. And that's happened quite frequently at meetings. And I think it's important to respect the public opinion and have comments taken at the beginning and request people come at that time. And if we can do it more than that, that's great. But it has to be the discretion of the chair.
We had this discussion at our very first meeting, and we settled on a public comment period at the beginning, and people could write in comments, and we would hear from people in other ways, but we did not choose to have the meeting be a dialogue with people that come in. And the thing they can do if they attend the meeting is they can listen, because that's part of what's going on. They can hear the process, but they can also send in their comments, and we've already been through this.
No, that's not what we agreed on at that meeting. We agreed on to have a public comment meeting at the beginning of the meeting, and we did not make any decisions about cutting off any sort of public discussion during the meeting.
We said it would be at the discretion of the chair.
It's always been at the discretion of the chair.
Yep.
So here's my, I think, compromise and solution, because having been in meetings where comments can get out of hand, and then also where they are very structured. I think when we're on a topic and we might be finished with a topic, if someone is here that might want to, we'll ask them if they have something related to that topic, and then maybe give them a minute to ask the question or such. It will work if there's 1 or 2 people, but when you have, like Becky said, 10 or more, that gets complicated, because then there starts to be more discussion. So
I have a suggestion. It seems like the only time that this is ever going to be a really big issue is when we're dealing with topics that are controversial or conflictual. And maybe we could deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
maybe a case-by-case basis is a better option.
I'm
But then
concerned
limiting it
Rachel
to a
is gonna
certain
leave
amount of
and
time.
we won't hear her. Melissa, I'm just concerned Rachel is going to leave and we won't
no.
have in her.
I know.
question.
Well, since we're on this topic, why don't we let Rachel ask her question she's so patiently been waiting for? Rachel, can you do that while we're thinking this through? Maybe you're participating.
Hi. Thank you for letting me speak. I have a couple of quick questions. How can I get a copy of the South County report and the police study committee report from the prior, whatever the committee was called, that I know Susie Moser was talking about that, because I didn't know about those things. And then the other question I had is, what could the committee do to be inclusive of people that either don't have email or maybe don't have a computer in the town? Or could a mailing be done with or at least alerting people that there's going to be a survey that the police study group is going to do. So those are my questions. And I was also wondering if I could have a copy, or if the public can have a copy of the charges of the police study group. Thank you very
That is
much.
online, I believe. I believe that one's
Yeah,
online.
the charge is online and the documents are online, and we'll try to make them easier to find. Susie, you know where they are.
Yeah, so we talked earlier in this meeting about pulling the information into one place where people could find it. It's already on there right now, and we'll have it relabeled in a way that people can access it all at once. In terms of non-computer contact, I think the survey committee needs to think about that, the subcommittee, about how they want to get the survey out there.
Do we have a budget for sending things in the mail?
No. Yeah, we can come up with some postage money, but it depends. Yeah. We'll have to figure it out.
Okay.
There may be a way. Okay. All right.
Ideally, the survey would be included in the newsletter that's going out next week. But that timing was not met.
Is there a newsletter in November?
No, there won't be another one till January.
Okay. All right. But the target could be Council on Aging does theirs, and that would be the people who may not have, the largest number of people in town that may not have internet would be
That's
that group. So maybe there's some work with the Council on Aging for their newsletter if they're sending one out in November.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I think we got the next few meetings set. Maybe we leave up the comments up to the discretion of the chair to see how many participants we have and how well we're doing on time for now. And does anybody else have any other comments before we adjourn, or do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second,
Good.
All those in favor, we'll do roll call. I'll go from the bottom up as I see them in the participants. Cheryl.
Can hear her name.
Cheryl, voting on
Oh.
adjourning.
Hayden, aye.
Thank you. Susie Mosier,
Mosier, aye.
Kristen Burgess,
Burgess, aye.
Mary Jo Johnson,
Aye.
Melody, I'm going to say your name right again.
You got it. Chartier, aye.
Thank you. I will get that, I promise. Mike Vinsky,
Binsky, aye.
Rita Farrell,
Farrell, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Sorry, Becky, you don't get to vote.
Right.
Okay.
See you on the 10th, 14th.
Yes, see you on the
Oh,
14th. Oh, yep.
Is
Bye.
that going to be a not all virtual? Because I really have a problem with these virtual meetings.
I think we can make that a hybrid one, and if there's no uptick in any viruses going on. Right, Becky? I
Okay.
think we'll monitor it ahead of time. We'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, bye.
bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.